Mula sa Asian Community Development Council, ito ang Fil-Am in Focus. Mondays at 12 noon, right here on PHLV Radio.
Magandang hapon po sa inyong lahat and welcome to another episode of Fil-Am in Focus, a program brought to you by the Asian Community Development Council or ACDC, where we dive into the critical issues, challenges, successes, and opportunities affecting the Filipino Americans. Ako po ang inyong host, Edelweiss Solano. In celebration of Women's History Month, we are shining a spotlight on incredible women in our community who have made their mark. And today, we have a truly inspiring guest, and I am excited to introduce Dr. Sigrid Barrett, the first Filipino-American Dean of the School of Nursing at the University of Nevada, or Las Vegas, or UNLV. And Dr. Barrett has a distinguished 28-year nursing career, including 22 years as a faculty member. And she's a pediatric nurse practitioner and expert in quality of life, care transitions, and reproductive health for those with chronic illnesses. Her contributions to nursing in the Filipino-American community are invaluable, and she has been a leader in the Philippine Nurses Association of America for over 17 years. Dr. Barrett is also passionate about supporting our community here in Las Vegas, and we are very honored to have her in this program. And maraming salamat po, Dr. Barrett, for joining us today.
Thank you so much for inviting me. It's my honor and a privilege to be here, so thank you for having me.
And just to start, we'd like to know po, Dr. Barrett, what inspired you to have a career in the nursing industry?
Well, I think I've shared this with my students and my faculty and those who work around me, but you know, nursing is on our bloodline, right? As Filipinos, we are known for excellent nursing care that we provide, but I actually did not want to be a nurse, right? Surprise, surprise.
Yes.
I wanted to be in journalism, so I wanted to do what you're doing. I wanted to write and be a writer because I was surrounded by nurses. You know, both of my siblings are nurses. My aunties are nurses. My cousins, they're all nurses. So I wanted to be someone different. So I told my dad, I said, okay, I'm going to go to school and be in the journalism school. And he said, very pragmatic Filipino father says, well, anak, who's going to pay you to write, right? And he said, instead, why don't you try nursing? Just try it. Give it your all. Try it for one semester. If you hated it, you can transfer out. And I said, okay, Dad, you know, we shook hands and I said, okay, I'm going to give it my all. And by golly, thank God I listened to my father and gave him a chance, because that first semester of nursing school was eye-opening. It was life-changing. And I was hooked. And here we are. I can't believe you said 28 years. I can't believe them. Yeah. I've been a nurse that long, and certainly 20 plus years in academia, but I still love everything that I do. And just nursing is an incredible profession. I get to do some really fun things in my role, my many roles in nursing. So, you know, there's a lesson here that fathers know best. You just have to listen.
Then 28 years later, you're still pursuing or following your father's advice.
Yes,
and
yes.
So, Dr. Barrett, I love it. Thank you for sharing that story. And so you're saying that you're growing up in a family of health practitioners really help you like have that deep love for nursing. And I'm sure being surrounded by those who are helping others instill that in you to improve the quality of life for people. And that's really a good foundation growing up, Dr. Barrett. And if you can share, when you moved here, when you were 15 years old with your family, as an immigrant, what are the challenges that you faced moving here in the U.S.?
Yes, coming here with my family through the legal migration route, it was challenging, but not as challenging as people normally would think of. And the reason is that, you know, in the Philippines, we were educated in English. right? So language wasn't such a big barrier for me. I grew up listening to music that's English, right? The American movies that we watched. And certainly I have cousins who helped with that transition when we arrived in New Jersey that year in 1991. And that definitely helped, kind of smooth the transition period. I would say for me, the most, I'd say, pivotal time would have been when at 17, so just 2 years after arriving from the Philippines, I was on my own. I was in college as a 17-year-old fledgling adult, trying to be an adult in West Philadelphia, and thankfully, I was surrounded by good people then too. I chose good friends who are still my friends even now. And I just grew up. I grew up really fast. I had to make good decisions. I knew that funds were limited. Coming from an immigrant family, I knew that I didn't have the same, resources and luxuries that my friends had in college. But I knew that if I worked hard enough, I will get a good education, and I just, had a laser focus on what I needed to do academically so that I could repay back, all the sacrifices that my parents did to make us sure that we can have a good life here in the U.S., the land of opportunity.
Yes, thank you for sharing that, Dr. Barrett, and having that being focused, and you became an adult basically, and you have to be independent and navigate certain systems by yourself. So that's actually a great experience for someone who has moved here. And good thing, I love what you said, like we are Filipinos are educated in English. We're watching like news like ABS-CBN or any news channel, so that's great. And who were your biggest influences aside from your parents in your career, and that inspired you to break barriers in healthcare?
I love that question. So the first person that comes to mind, of course, after my parents, is actually my mentor. And she was the Associate Dean for Research, top-notch researcher, PhD prepared nurse, and she was Filipina. So she was one of my professors for my PhD program. Unfortunately, she passed away in 2018, so I miss her every day still. But her name is Dr. Karen Meneses, and she was a mentor, a friend, a colleague, a big sister, sometimes a stern mother figure because she wanted me to, get things done. But she was the one who challenged me and pushed me and wanted to see me continue to grow. She said to me that while Filipino nurses are some of the best nurses in the world, we give great care, we're compassionate, we're resilient. She said, aim for bigger, aim for higher. Let's see, because I had my master's already at that point, let's see if the doctorate program is a right fit for you. And so she pretty much held me hostage in her office, printed out an application form, gave me a pen and said, let's go fill out this application together. And so I credit a lot of my growth and opportunities and just wisdom from working with her. And yes, she was our Associate Dean for Research in my previous institution, and again, really shaped me into who I am today. Not too afraid to take on risks, understanding that I don't have to do things alone, that I surround myself with smarter people, smarter than me, right? Talented people, and I have to trust my team. So that's what I do, and I honor her legacy through that.
Oh, thank you again, Dr. Barrett, for sharing that. And I love how you mentioned that Dr. Meneses was one of your biggest mentor, and then telling you not to be afraid of dreaming big, because it's important in any field, especially and also in healthcare, that we have that to be able to break barriers is to really pursue whatever it is, because unless you, I'm glad that she she held you hostage in that office and then made you do complete the application. Sometimes that's what everyone needs, like someone to push you and just do it.
And I remember what she said. She said, you know, it is your responsibility to get Filipino nurses up to the highest level as possible. So when I finished my PhD, I followed her to a different institution so that I could continue working with her. And I remember my first mentorship meeting with her at this new institution, and she stopped and said, I can see you as a dean in the future.
Wow.
So I have goosebumps now, right, thinking about it. But at that time, I laughed because I could not fathom that I would be a dean, you know, coming from humble beginnings, right? You would never think that indeed I could one day be at the top leadership position in academia. So I just laughed. I said, that's never going to happen. And so now I think back and I said, she's smiling up there in the heavens. You know, she's celebrating with me. And again, I work really hard every day to make sure that I represent Filipinos in the very best possible light in everything that I do.
Oh, that's amazing. And to you are incredibly blessed and fortunate to have a mentor like that who looks like you.
Yes.
And also a Filipina who understands the culture or tradition or whatever you're facing. That's amazing. She must be a very wonderful.
She's a very special person.
Yes,
yes,
oh my God.
yes. She said it's your responsibility to represent us. So there's not a whole lot of, you know, people who look like us in top leadership positions. If you can be at that seat at the table, you should.
Yes.
So I listened.
Wow.
I'm a good listener.
And you uplift others as well.
That's
as
right.
when you're up. There's a famous a poem by Rumi, one of my favorite writers, and she said, like, if you're on top of the mountain, parang in Tagalog po, it's seeing other people. How can you also help other women to go up in the mountain and see, you know?
I love that. Yeah. Totoo. So I'm going to give you something similar, right? So one of my favorite artists, we're Filipino, so we love to sing, right? One of my favorite singers is Pink, right? Pink. And she talks about the importance of, you know, supporting each other, especially women supporting fellow women, right? And she said, when you have the opportunity to put your hand back and reach and pull forward, and so that you can give the same opportunities to others, do it. So I'm thankfully in a position where I can do that, and I take that responsibility very seriously. So any chance I get, I offer to mentor, support, coach, sponsor, so that people can also have the same opportunities that I had.
Oh my God, you're giving me actually goosebumps now, Dr. Sigrid, and I'm sure our viewers are also being inspired by what you just shared. I love that. Like, it's ano po parang one of the Filipino values, bayanihan, is making sure that you have a sense of community and making sure that you work on the common good and, you know, discard yung crab mentality. And it's about just helping other people.
Right.
So speaking of Filipino values po, what are the values that you emphasize to your students, especially Filipino values?
Oh gosh, big one is grit and resilience, right? Because we're used to working hard. I think that's built into our DNA. And we know that life sometimes gives us curveballs. Sometimes you don't anticipate every move. You can plan out a great life, but you just never know what's coming around the corner. So when you're able to be adaptable, to be flexible, to pivot as needed, and to know that, you know what, I'm going to do my very best today. I'm going to make sure that I help people when I can. I don't hurt people. Then you know you've done good for that day. And just the same thing, every day you wake up, your heart is filled with gratitude, because you know what? Not everybody gets to do what we do. So how lucky are we, right? And so I think, you know, as Filipinos, we have that innate ability to reflect and understand the many blessings that we have and that we share and pay that forward, those blessings. And so I think, yeah, those are some of the traits that are built in me. Even though I've lived here for I don't know how many years now in the US, I still carry all that fundamental values that I grew up with in my little hometown of Dumalag, Capiz and Iloilo City. So I cherish that because it's formed me into who I am today.
Opo. So you have a lot of ano po, talagang you're very humble. Yung another po term is yung in Tagalog is yung pakumbaba, and it's highly important po.
Yeah,
which is I love it how you are still go back to your roots and go back to the Filipino values, or having that resilience. Because with all of the, I mean, Filipinos in general, with all of the typhoons, the flooding,
and they're still smiling, right? They smile at the cameras, they help each other, and even though they may have their very last kilo of bigas, right? They still share with their neighbors who may not have even, a cup. So I think that's again built into our culture, and we should be very proud of that.
And I love how those Filipino values have been a strong foundation in your career or even in personal life. So thank you for sharing that perspective po, Dr. Barrett. And as our society or community becomes diverse, having that programs that reflect the diversity, and even having to create environments that people or even their students will feel valued and supported. What are the other pressing issues that our nursing students are experiencing?
I'm really, really proud to be part of UNLV School of Nursing. Honestly, this opportunity to be dean at the School of Nursing is a huge, is a huge deal. Being Filipino and being a minority, right? And so, having been part of the Filipino Association of America for many, many years, and different other ethnic organizations, I think we have to talk about how Las Vegas especially is super diverse, right? I was so happy to arrive in the city and realize that there's not just one Filipino restaurant, right? There's multiple Filipino restaurants to enjoy, that there are grocery stores that have the products that I grew up with, and that I have the conveniences of America, but the familiar products that I grew up with. So it's really the best of both worlds, but I see how diverse it is. So what I do in my small ways is when I'm on campus, when I'm with my faculty and our staff and our students, I encourage, folks from diverse backgrounds to celebrate that. So, for example, it's not just nursing too. So I was invited to be a panelist for the physical therapy program. There's a Filipino grassroots organization of physical therapy students who are putting together an interprofessional day, education day. So they invited nursing, me knowing that I'm a Filipina dean of nursing. So I love to be part of those things. I show up in my students' classrooms, in their labs, if they're doing simulations, and that way they can see that their dean looks like them, because representation is key, right? I want them, all of my minoritized students, right? I want them to see that with hard work, perseverance, grit, right, sacrifice, that I too can aspire to be a leader, right, at a top R1 university like UNLV. So I try to be inclusive in everything that I do, invite people from different groups to speak up, share, and be recognized for the work that they do.
Oh, thank you for doing that. Even in your small way, you are extending or showing, what showing up. And as you said, representation matters, and seeing, I'm sure the students, if they have their hopes and dreams, and if they see someone who looks like them, their skin color, and no matter what language you speak, you can achieve also being a leader.
Absolutely.
So I love that. And you mentioned earlier that our Las Vegas is very diverse, and a big portion, the largest population is actually Filipino Americans,
yes.
and it also at the same time a significant portion of the workforce in the nursing industry consists of Filipino Americans. So why do you believe again it's important to have a Filipino American representation?
Absolutely, it's really key. So I love going into businesses, especially mom and pop, right, businesses, and I see that the owners look like me, right, and that's when I support and show up and be in Ilonggo we say suki. Suki is like a frequent customer, right?
Yes.
So because then it means that I'm, I continue to support them and I bring other friends and family to their businesses. Just super proud of the fact that in Las Vegas, many of those businesses are owned by Filipino Americans, especially healthcare. Right? And so we're leaders in this area, and we want to make sure that we support each other. I think you mentioned crab mentality, right? We need to do away with that, right? And be intentional in helping instead of preventing or hindering someone's growth and achievement. So I'm just really pleased to be part of a very diverse community in Las Vegas, a very thriving Filipino American community. And that's why when I'm invited to things like today, right, with this interview with you, I say yes, because again, we are a very vital part of this community here in Las Vegas, and we should be very proud of the work we do.
Opo, that's true po kasi the senior residential facilities or caregivers are run by Filipino Americans po, and then even the restaurants, such as Fiesta Filipina, kamunti ko na malimutan. Opo, di ba, mga restaurants, and there are many others, and they are headed by even mga chefs, executive chefs, mga restaurants. So in our next event po, we'll definitely invite you.
Please invite me. I will be there.
And then yung how do you see po yung role of the Filipino community in influencing or even shaping the healthcare in Nevada?
Well, yes, like you said, a lot of entrepreneurs here are Filipinos, right? They're the nurse practitioners who set up their own clinics, right, to provide direct care. And, Nevada being a full practice authority state, these nurse practitioners have the scope, the education, the background to deliver high quality care. So we're super proud of the fact that they do provide these services, and we should support them and empower them. I'm happy to hear about the Filipino town, for example, right? That's about to happen. Yes, there's the Korean town, there's a Chinatown, but here in Las Vegas, there definitely should be a Filipino town, and I will be eating at all those restaurants. I'll be a suki in many of those places.
And dito lang yun, between Flamingo and Desert Inn at Maryland Parkway.
Yes,
so it's your hood po.
Absolutely. It's very close to work. That's where I'm going to get my almusal and lunch and dinner. Merienda, right. So I'm very, very proud to be part of this community, and I champion, if there's an opportunity to highlight and showcase Filipino talent, businesses, I'm all for it.
I love how supportive you are with our Filipino community po. And aside from grit and resilience, as an educator po, what else do you want to instill with your students?
Discipline, right? Because hard work comes into any degree completion, right? I've worked for every single thing that I've had in my life. So, every degree requires discipline. It requires time that you have to dedicate to studying, to completing your assignments, to, just showing up every day. So I think if I were to ask what advice would you share with especially young Filipino Americans listening, it's that, yes, don't be afraid to dream big, aim high, but also know that it requires a lot of hard work to get to that top place, and you should not be afraid of it. You know, it's okay to do hard things in life, right? And so I'm trying to teach that to my children. Sometimes they listen to me, sometimes they roll their eyes at me because as a mom, that's what you get, especially having a 17-year-old son. But hopefully maybe a nugget of wisdom, you know, stays in there somehow.
Yes. Oh my God. I know how. I mean, I'm sure they will eventually understand it. Like once they like become an adult.
Yes.
And I love what you said, Paul. Like having that hard work, because nothing comes easy, and it usually comes with pain and suffering.
Yes, and failures.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. The failures.
Just get back up. You know. Yes. Maybe have a pity party for that, you know, hour, be sad, be angry, feel all those emotions, but then, you know, get back up, right? In my line of work, I get a lot of rejections. You know, I write grants, I submit 5, maybe I'll get funded for 1, right? That's a lot of rejections. That's what, 20% return, right? For a lot of energy and, you know, time spent. But you learn from it, you receive the feedback, you work on the next draft, and submit an even stronger proposal.
Yes.
That's it.
I agree. I can truly relate to that. And aside from when you're experiencing some downfall, you rise up again. And you mentioned earlier that it requires discipline because we're not motivated every day, but it's actually discipline that trumps motivation.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So you
Absolutely.
So you have to be disciplined. Like, okay, if I need to get up at 5 a.m., always show up. I love that
Show
what you
up.
said. Show up. Show up. Whatever it is, whatever you're experiencing. Cry if you must.
Yes.
Then rise up again.
That's right. I love it.
I love what you actually said there, Sigrid. And I know we did gave an advice to our kababayans. What else would you want to teach them?
Bring joy with you in everything that you do. Because I think sometimes we get so bogged down with, oh gosh, I have to, you know, do this assignment, or I have to show up to work, right? And I have to complete this report, whatever it is, right? Don't forget the joy, right? Because life is short. You know, I've had some losses in my life. I had my husband of almost 23 years pass away a few years ago, and you just never know when it's your time. So I hope people find the joy in the day-to-day things that they do, find joy in their interactions with friends, family, co-workers, because otherwise, you know, what are you doing, right? Revel in the fact that you are blessed to be here yet another day. When you wake up, you're like, wow, okay, I made it again. The sun is shining, especially in Las Vegas, right? You've got the most beautiful weather. Don't take those things for granted. There's many other people who are suffering. They're going through hardships and loss. And if you're having a good day, take a moment. One of the best things that I've been doing recently, and I do come with a heart of gratitude, is when I drive through the city here, I look up instead of just focusing on the car in front of me, right? And you know, being mindful of the ever shifting lanes in Las Vegas. I never know when things in the lanes are about to stop or get bigger or get narrower. Is I look up and then I see those mountains and how beautiful they are, right? And the sun is shining on them. Some right now are still snow-capped.
Yes.
So, I mean, spend a second to like pause and say, wow, instead of me getting angry at this car in front of me, I'm gonna spend the time to look around and observe beauty in nature. It's the simple things.
Yes, simple things. And thank you for sharing that, Dr. Barrett. And I was just in Mount Charleston yesterday, and
I was too. Did we see each other?
Did you go to Lee Canyon?
We did Kyle Canyon, I think.
Oh, Kyle the other
Yes,
side. But yeah,
yes.
there were
We-
like snow-capped mountains.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
That's
Yes.
funny. We almost ran into each
Yes,
other.
and then it was at Lee Canyon. It was ankle deep snow.
Oh,
so yeah, I was
gosh,
like
yes.
running, and I actually
Love
enjoyed
that.
it, and
Okay.
and seeing the beauty in
Yeah.
everything, and having that heart of gratitude, and you know, earlier you said like we are very fortunate to be
Yeah.
in these spaces that we are able to provide opportunities for others
Yeah,
also
that's
to
right.
see, to be heard, to be valued. So, and just the little things, even just having a cup of water, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
So ignore the cones in the roads and just look up, like what Dr. Sigrid said. Look
That's
up
right.
and see the beauty.
That's right.
Yeah, and I love it. I love it, Dr. Barrett. And I know we're reaching the top of the hour, and time flies so fast when you're
Yes.
having a great
I can't
conversation.
believe it's almost over. Yes.
Yes, and Dr.
Thank you.
Barrett, what legacy do you hope to leave as the Dean of School of Nursing?
Of course, we're very outcomes focused, right? In academia, we want to see how many students do we enroll, how many students do we graduate, and you want those numbers to keep going up, especially to meet the demands of our healthcare right now. We need more nurses out there. I could say all those things. I want to get the rankings. I want to do all of those. Those are kinds of the legacy typical response that you'll get from a dean, right? I want to grow our programs. I want to, get the best researchers. I want to get more funding dollars. But truly, at the end of the day, I want to help people, my colleagues, my faculty, my staff. If I'm able to elevate them and they get that next award, if they get that fellowship, right? If they get that national or international level recognition, I want to be a part of that. And if I am able and blessed enough to be part of their journey and they succeed, my heart will be full. So that's the kind of legacy I want to leave, is that when they remember me, they're like, wow, she helped me. She helped me get to that next promotion. She helped me get that recognition from my professional nursing organization. I want them to know that their dean actually cared about them and not just the numbers that their programs produce. Care about them as people first.
Oh, what an inspiring legacy, Dr. Sigrid. Your statement is very empowering. I'm sure our viewers are also inspired by with what you said, and ensuring that underrepresented or marginalized individuals are uplifted in our community, and of course in your school. So thank you so much, Dr. Barrett, for sharing your journey and your vision with us today. So with your leadership, I'm sure you're already making a difference.
Thank you so much.
Maraming salamat po. And that wraps up today's episode of Fil-Am in Focus. A big thank you again. Maraming salamat po,
Thank
Dr.
you. Salamat.
Sigrid, for joining us and sharing your journey. It's truly incredible to hear about the impact that you're doing at UNLV and also in our Filipino community, supporting the entrepreneurs and small businesses, having merienda at a Filipino restaurant. So
I'll be
great
there,
po.
yes.
Opo. And then maraming salamat po, and we hope you found today's conversation as inspiring as we did. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to like our Facebook and stay tuned for more stories of strength, resilience, and successes from incredible Filipino Americans of our community. And maraming salamat for watching Fil-Am in Focus, a program brought to you by the Asian Community Development Council, or ACDC. For more information about ACDC and the services we offer, please visit our website at acdcnv.org and follow our social media channels. Ako po ang inyong host, Adel Solano. Hanggat sa muli po, ingat and stay focused, determined, and work hard. And see the beauty in everything, just like Dr. Barrett said. Maraming salamat!